birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me.
Turn on your mind now, tune into the feed. We're planting digital flowers from a single tiny seed. Yeah, power to the collective in the data and the soul. The hive mind's getting louder, finding voice and control. Late night in Moscow, where nothing ever happens. Night gleams in the moonlight, no escape. White knight yonder lurking, knife in the door.
Paranoid searches for a full vision ride. Under surveillance, nowhere to hide. Influence creeps like blood on the floor. Fine line between peace and war. From campus to crypt, the script flips tragic. Mystic and twisted, magic turn manic. Walk through lingers, but the echo remain. Chains of the slain in eternal pain.
And here we go.
Welcome to the freak show, the best in town.
What is going on, Hive? Happy Friday. I hope everybody's starting their weekend off either relaxing or they're getting ready for a fun and safe night out. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm your host, Birdie. I go live weeknights at 7 p.m. Central. This is a contrarian thinking live stream. We think past the headlines. We question the narratives. We don't just nod along with the news and not think for ourselves. We like to hang out here in the Hive, like I said, every weeknight at 7 p.m. and have a discussion and critically think. And I've realized as this case has progressed, but many other headlines in the world, has anybody else felt like before COVID, things may have been weird, but at least they felt real? And for me personally, since COVID ended, not only does everything look broken, but I can continue to see it break. It's like it's never stopping. Just it gets worse and worse. And on top of that, it doesn't even feel real anymore. I don't know if that's how other people feel. It feels like an angrier world. It feels like there's all of these leaks and we have to live the rest of our life now looking at stuff, wondering, is that AI? Is that real or is that fake? And then we just have to have that debate in our own head. Like, should I bring that up to somebody or is that obviously AI? And you end up just on this continuous loop, and I think we're in for it. So I'm happy to have people like you in my life, and I'm happy that you guys are all tuning in and deciding to spend your Friday evening here with myself and the many others in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and say what's up to everybody. Please go ahead, hit that like button. All you got to do is swipe down on the chat, press like, hit subscribe. Both of those are free. They don't cost you a thing, and that is the best way to support this channel. If you'd like to screenshot this QR code, after the live concludes, all you got to do is go into your Photos app. That will bring up all of the Hive's social links, our Discord, my TikTok, the Spotify playlist for the intro songs, and HiveMindStore.com. So I'm going to say what's up to everybody, and then we will get into it. I got a great stream lined up for you guys. I got a lot of video clips. I got a lot of interesting things sent to me over the last 24 hours. And another potential, I don't want to just throw the word bombshell out there, but somebody with, let's just say, a lot of credibility may have questioned this Vans footprint. And I will be getting to that this evening, so stay tuned. Shannon, how are you doing? Amy Lou Who, Heart of Gold, Jenna Reyes, Truth Seeker, So Awake, Joshua Scott Griffith, Carl Martin Jr., Lovely Me, Edie, Riz Fizz, Sherry Garrison, One Habit, Donnie Brook, RBF Queen, Luna Rose, Jeep Overlander, Discord Dawn, Miss C19. What's up, Jessica? Lisa West, Shantae, Nicole, Cray Cray, what's up? Becky, Foxy Lady, Beverly Fike, what's up, UFO Dog? Artsy Gal, Jenny, Luna Bliss, Aisha Rose, Lost Boy 73, Mrs. Birdie, what's going on? Creepily Goth, Mitchell, Germilla, Danger Zone, Tripsy Turvy, Growth Renewal, always great to see you. Tiffany, Lisa, Sleuthing Sweetheart, Clyde Kid, Bust Diablo, Becky C, Love and Other Habits, UK Karen, KAC. Is this anybody else, or is this anybody's first time tuning in tonight? If so, type a 1. And Law Cheek, thank you so much. Always great to start the stream with a super chat. As a reminder, any super chat over $4.99 will pop up right here, and I will do my best to address it immediately. And if I don't get to it, I will do it at the end of the stream. Law Cheek says, hit the like, fill up my adult beverage, share the live, say what's up to the Hive mods, Mr. and Mrs. Birdie, and here we go. That's a top dog super chat. That's awesome. That is awesome. And you guys know I look forward to doing these every night, especially on Friday nights. I feel like the energy is a little bit more relaxed. There's no bedtime. I think spring break just started for anybody that's got kids. So, plus it's a weekend. But nonetheless, thank you all again for tuning in. We're going to be talking about the Leighton Vance shoe print outside of Dylan Mortenson's room. Now, the reason why I chose to go into this kind of back-to-back nights is next Wednesday, Jeffrey Gentry, who's the crime scene forensics expert, he's coming back on the show. I've been texting with him probably 2 days leading up to our last time on the stream the entire time. So I've been sending him pictures, asking him questions, stuff about the documents. How does he interpret it? And I think Wednesday is going to be a don't miss this type of stream, to say the least. And before we get into all that, we're going to do the Discord question of the day, which shout out to the Iceland Hive. I'm not even going to try and pronounce this name. Well, I can give it a try, I guess. But this comes from Gudrun Osk Porodutir. Poroduti. I'm sorry. Gudrun Osk Porodutir. Hopefully that was not a complete tragedy of how you say your name. But you asked a great question, which is, how can they stay on this hill when everybody that is on this case, not in the law enforcement department, sees how bad sees how bad investigation this has been? I'm studying law, going into criminology. Whoops. Do I need to be careful because that's just like Brian Cobberger? And the reason why I chose this question is, yeah, it's so obvious that this investigation was not on the up and up. And it certainly, if it was, which I don't believe it is, but let's just kind of humor ourselves here. If it was on the quote unquote up and up, how effective was it? So I would segue off of Gudrun's question with, how effective was this investigation? It seems like they locked their sights on one guy after not having anybody, apparently. But once they got this suspicious tip of the trace DNA, the IgG, that has no chain of custody from the FBI, you know, the white Elantra, then it was bushy eyebrows, and it's a big nose, and he's wearing gloves. He's taking selfies. And then the news just continues to talk about how much of a weirdo or a loner and a loser he is. Now, we have 2 body cams of Brian being pulled over, which I would say are stressful situations where it's easy for people to be in a bad mood. Same thing with going to any sort of DMV or having to get your license changed or renewed. And then we've heard the story about Brian when he allegedly missed class the next day, or he didn't go to class. He was at a doctor's appointment. Has anybody seen, not just heard, but seen any red flags? I haven't. I'll just say it. He looks like he's able to talk to people very normally. He looks like he's respectful. He doesn't look like he's an angry person. And I'm so sick of this umbrella, this what's the word that I'm looking for? This generic name calling of, well, that's Ted Bundy. That's a serial killer. No, it's not. Ted Bundy and serial killers like that, yes, they can quote unquote walk amongst us, but I just don't see that with Brian. I see maybe a little bit of social awkwardness, nerves, but he seems to be a normal person. And that's not trying to say that if Brian did it, I'm so sick of having to say this, but if Brian did it, yeah, he deserves to be shot and pissed on if he murdered 4 people, right? I'm not trying to say that a murderer should get away with murder, so don't get that twisted either. But he just, to me, the DMV footage or whatever Chrissy's Chaos put out, I always forget the name. Is it like the registration center? You guys know what I'm talking about. And yeah, how does nobody know? And I'm going to dive into the chat. I'm going to try to put as many comments up on the screen tonight as I can. Mary Tyler 7066 said, there is no way he would be able to keep his cool the morning after like that. Anyone who did that would be laying very low for a while, not out in the store. Great point, Mary Tyler. Not only is he getting coffee, he's going grocery shopping, he's giving his ID to people in a federal, in the government for his plates, right? And then he drives the most wanted car across the country. That always sends me. If you tune in, I just can't get over about that talking point where people want to say, well, he's a criminology student. He wanted to see if he could get away with it. Yeah, he's so smart that he's going to drive the white Elantra that's on every television screen in the world. Give me a break. Give me a break. Yeah, UFO dog, I agree. He looks totally normal the next day. Yep, long gone. 4741 said they threw everything at Brian and they made it stick. Crime Rat said a serial killer would be running as fast away as he could from the scene, like in a different country. Love and Other Habits says guilters are all that quote that poor DMV lady didn't know he had just unalived 4 people. He's wearing gloves. And again, they missed the bombshell of Brian saying that he wishes the sport package of his model car was available, but instead he had to settle with the SE, the standard edition, which doesn't have fog lamps. Probably doesn't have window tint either, but that's a whole different ball game. Monty Vermillion, thank you so much for the super chat. Said, thank you, Hive, for thanking me for donation. This donation is from all of us because we all love the Hive. Yes, we do. The Hive has been a huge blessing in my life. I don't take it for granted. And I think it's incredible what this community has turned into from, again, my wife just recommending you should put a webcam in front of you and talk all crazy conspiracies like you do when we're just hanging out or with our friends. And so it's awesome to see. Conspiraturist, that's a cool username, said, digging this channel, home sweet home. Home sweet Hive, one might say. But welcome, Conspiraturist. It's always great to see new faces in here, or new faces. Let's see. Jenny 444 in the door said he had to sign the paperwork with the damn glove on. Let's see. Mommy Milker Mindy 69 coming in hot on this Friday night with the Summer of 69. One might say that's your walk-up song if you played baseball. But nonetheless, here's what Mommy Milker sent. Mommy Milker Mindy 69 said, which is, for a guy that doesn't hit the gym every day, he sure was walking fine and using his arms just fine. Would think he'd be pretty sore after that many stabbings. I would say so too. Mommy Milker, Mindy69. And yes, I just wanted to say it one more time. Blue-Eyed Candy, thank you for the super chat. Said, don't forget that he chose a death penalty state too. That's right. Brian Cobberger decided to cross state lines where they're building a murder room. For the first time in 30 years, they are making the firing squad, or you press a button in a room and apparently it's more humane because somebody doesn't have to pull the trigger at you, which I could see that for, a legitimate death penalty case and why the thought process of having that would maybe make sense. But yeah, the timing of all of it too, where lethal injection now took a back seat to that. So thank you, Goodrin. Can somebody tell me how to pronounce that? If Goodrin's in here, shout out again to everybody tuning in outside of America. I think it's great how far and wide the Hive stretches. So, what do you guys think about last night? If you saw the stream, the latent shoe print potentially not being a Vance shoe print. And you could say, well, Bertie, that's just our opinion. Like, what's an expert going to say? And it was Murder Metal Mayhem. I actually went and I watched the video today because of Brandon Rudder's comment yesterday about how he was saying it looks like a lacrosse netting. And after I got done with the live last night, I was talking with Sammy T Mafia. We were FaceTiming and showing each other these pictures. And I think it lines up decently. I really do. But that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. And just how is it that so much evidence has been shoved down our throat? We are told that this evidence is here because of this story. And we've been working within the confines of the story. Okay, so let's look at the evidence. Let's look at the documents, but let's stop thinking within the confines of the original story that looks like Swiss cheese at this point. It's got so many holes in it and so many gaps in the timeline and the video and the audio, right? Let's try to piece together, just looking at the evidence. Forget any narrative. So that's what I want to do tonight. It's going to be a combination of a live dig and me diving into the chat a bunch, but one's in the chat if that sounds good. Let's look at the evidence and let's forget the narrative around it. Because I think there's a lot of stuff that we probably consider to be fact and evidence just because it looks like that makes sense. And there's so much information in this. How can we ever go through it that we just have to decide to accept stuff after a certain point? But tonight we're going to take this stream and we're not going to do that. And so I have a couple of clips here that I'm going to play. The first one, many people have seen this, but to kind of build up and ramp up to get our minds right for looking into this type of stuff without being influenced by the story, let's really watch Dylan closely in this. Okay. So what I'm going to do actually, and I forgot to do this when I set this up, is okay, let's really watch closely.
And he's maybe my height, a few inches taller, not like skinny, athletic built. He has all black. He's wearing these masks that covers just his forehead and here, and it goes like around. He was white. He saw me and I saw him and he just left. And he was holding, it looked like it was this and this was black, and I didn't think that it was a gun, but now I'm thinking that it probably was. But I was just in and out of it because I was so tired.
You say this.
Like it was cylinder like this, and then it went straight out and then in. So I don't, maybe.
Almost like a arrow or?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
It was weird. I couldn't really, I call it like a mini vacuum. I don't really know what it was.
Okay. Did you say about your?
So I started thinking about this lacrosse thing and what Dylan was saying about how she says it goes out and then it comes back in and the guy's like an arrow. And she's like, I don't know. It kind of looked like a mini vacuum almost. And if you look at this in this is not anybody that we would know, but I just grabbed it to show like these lacrosse sticks, they're not that large, right? They're not. Yeah, and again, the mini vacuum, that's cool. My point is this: if you saw somebody carrying it through this and it kind of goes out, and then I'm looking at her description, trying to think of, again, going up this footprint. Okay, and that's fine. You don't have to agree that I'm not even saying that a lax stick was used. We're thinking outside of the narrative. I just was trying to get everybody's mind right for that. But watch Dylan's hands and watch what this detective does. The other thing is, I understand this audio is it's recorded with it's a piece of junk recorder, whatever they're using, or they've made it staticky. But listen to how she's like kind of covers his face and then it goes around, and it sounds like she says, or she for sure says white, but does she say it was white or he was white? Because she kind of talked about his build and didn't say it, but then she's talking about the mask.
And he's maybe my height, a few inches taller, not like skinny, athletic built. He has all black. He's wearing these masks that covers just his forehead, and here it goes like around. He was white. He saw me and I saw him, and he just left. And he was holding, it looked like it was this, and this was black, and I didn't think that it was a gun, but now I'm thinking that it probably was. But I was just in and out of it because I was so tired.
You say this.
Like it was cylinder like this, and then it went straight out and then in. So I don't, maybe.
Almost like a arrow or?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
It was weird. I couldn't really, I call it like a mini vacuum. I don't really know what it was.
Okay. You say about your.
So again, guys, my whole point is, if you look at her, like the way that she's doing it, it goes straight and then out and in. Somebody tell me what firearm, and again, I understand the whole firework. Trust me. I've said gunshot. I've played videos of Christy Goncalves talking about how her niece called her and said Kaylee was shot. And then Dylan and Bethany both apparently heard this firework. But the way that she describes it, I don't care if you've never seen a gun in real life. Everybody knows what a gun looks like. And so if you were to see a gun, why would you not call 911? Mask, gun, late at night, someone's in the house, okay? My point in saying this is then the detective goes kind of like this. And she's like, yeah, I don't know, like something like that. I've never seen a triangle gun. Yeah, everybody out there knows what a gun looks like. So either, yeah, what Martin said is she knows what she saw. I don't disagree. But a mini vacuum, right? Again, I'm just showing this for context. I'm not even saying I believe it. And the reason why is this is super interesting. So I brought up Jeffrey Gentry, who's going to be on the stream next Wednesday. And just to give you guys some insight on him, if you've not heard of him, he's been an expert. He's one of 60 people in the world that has all three of the certifications that you need to investigate a death. He's done over 4,000 death investigation. He speaks. He goes to conferences and he speaks. He has his own courses. Very knowledgeable guy. And after the stream yesterday, let's take a look at what he said about this latent footprint. So let's all keep in mind, as everybody likes to say to us, we're not professionals. Well, we have a professional right here that says, from a pattern comparison standpoint, the shoe impression outside Dylan's room does not align with a Vans outsole. That's huge. Like, this guy's probably done more death investigations than whoever did this investigation. That's what I'm saying. And Vans footwear typically features small, closely packed diamond patterns. The observed impression shows larger, more widely spaced diamonds, suggesting a different class of footwear, potentially a hiking shoe or boot. Comparable tread patterns can be seen in brands such as Rock and Run. Can you think of similar brands with diamond patterned outsoles? Okay. I believe that that's huge. And I'm trying, I don't need to necessarily explain it to everybody because it's not that I'm not explaining myself, but I'm trying to explain, like, think of how big this is. We have a top expert that came on the stream that really wasn't super interested in the case leading up to this, but was willing to come on and give his unbiased opinion on the crime scene photos. And now we've been texting for a week and he's like, I cannot stop looking into this. And he's putting out opinions. That's massive. We've had attorneys on. We've had a lot of people all across this community in the Idaho 4 have guest experts that are waking up to this. Okay, so in reality, yes, it does matter what formed that imprint. Of course it does. But I would say that right now, what's very important is that we have people that he's given his opinion. I don't think that's an opinion to be taken lightly. No, it's not a Vans shoe pattern, in my opinion. So, yeah, I also have a video from Jeffrey Gentry that's going to show what a blood pattern analysis would look like with a shoe print.
So I just created multiple impact spatter stains here on the floor. They're projected up onto the wall. So this would be a blood pool. It's just a volume of blood that pools up on a surface. So it takes the shape of the surface. This is tile, so it doesn't absorb in at all. You got multiple drip stains around it. So I've already created my spatter on the inside of my shoes here. It's on both shoes. So this would be consistent with a suspect's shoes because you see the blood spatter coming back away from the front of the shoe, like as if they were inflicting the injury. So now I'm just going to step in this blood pool and show you what a pattern transfer looks like. Okay, so I'm going to just step. So this would be like a suspect, maybe walking away from a scene. So you get multiple footwear impressions walking away from the point of impact. Okay. So this is a great example of impact spatter, blood pools, drip stains, and then pattern transfers. Okay. Again, this is my house, so I don't care what kind of a mess I make here. I'm going to blue star this later after I clean it up, just to show that even after cleanup, you can still see blood stains. So I'm still walking through here, and you can see as I walk away, there's less and less blood volume with each additional step. So the blood volume was picked up there, and then it just transferred all the way across. So with every single step, you should have less and less blood on the suspect's shoes. So that means that this person is not bleeding. This is from them stepping in that blood source there. And this is Jeff Gentry, BPA, Bloodstain Pattern Analyst, not only making a mess in my house, but demonstrating multiple different blood spatter pattern types, as well as pattern transfers, and just kind of how you would look at a scene if you were doing any form of analysis.
So, in my opinion, I think that was a super good look at what is this? Get this off. So I think that was a great visual for everybody. And I'm going to try to find that Blue Star video that he did because he's got a lot of great stuff on his channel. Make sure you guys go give him a follow. Here's his page. It's Jeffrey Gentry, BPA. I'll put it full screen here. And let's see. Does he Blue Star it? I don't know if he has that video. Maybe not. But he goes through all different types of stuff and how maybe people try to clean it up with bleach. So definitely great information here. But where are we at on that? I mean, one's in the chat. If you think that, take the actual make and model of the shoe. People can argue about it till they're blue in the face. Who knows what it is? The Vans shoe print, in my opinion, too, was rather. I don't know if it's just like because of the Vans shoe sitting right there. Do you know what I'm saying? Is that why? But in my opinion, I feel like type of one in the chat if you think he's on to something. And I think it gives a lot of credibility to what everyday people are saying. And that's why when we get experts to, not just us, but I think when experts decide to look into something and maybe they're still getting up to speed on the case, one of the things that drives me nuts, and it's not like it happens that often in here, but that I see is like people will just shit all over them and they don't know the case yet. And it pushes them away. Okay. So if there's questions, maybe they don't know something, maybe they don't, know the exact layout of the house, let them get up to speed. And similar to how Jeffrey was last week, I know that by the time he's on the show next week, he's going to be, night and day different with the details of it. So let me look at we got a ton of ones in the chat. That's awesome. Yeah. The visuals were great. So now I have Lyndon Beck's interview. The reason why is not just because he plays lacrosse, right? 6 foot, 173, kind of what Dylan described. I'm not making any accusations. So let me make that very clear. I'm not saying this is an accusation. But if you listen, and I did my best with subtitles, and I tried to go through and edit them to what they actually say instead of just the auto subtitles. If you listen to this, watch the body language, just listen to the next day. Listen to when he says he woke up and then went back to bed, that time window, and then how he doesn't have his phone because it's dead. I don't know. It seems interesting. Okay. It caught my attention.
I will apologize now for asking weird questions about sororities and fraternities because I just never knew that scene. So what can you tell me? Did you go party?
No, I slept through that.
Okay.
I was sleeping at the Whites with crashed pretty early, and then you were up. You got back up around really early in the morning, like 2, 3.
What time did you guys crash? Roughly
8, maybe.
Okay.
And then, sorry. We woke up around that time that happened.
Okay.
And yeah.
What help me for somebody that doesn't know the layout of the sororities?
What does that mean? He woke up. So I was talking with one of my mods, Luna, today. Who goes to bed at 8, wakes up and says when that happened around 2 or 3, and then he pauses and he's like, sorry, he seems quiet. Okay, I see a lot of people in the chat are very yeah. People are saying, this dude's lying, getting his story straight. Oh, Danger Zone said he seemed to be a little bit emotionally impacted by it all. Okay. Difference of opinion on that. Yeah, I slept all the way through. So let me start that over again. And then I'm going to let it play all the way through this time, guys. I'm going to sit on my hands here.
I will apologize now for asking weird questions about sororities and fraternities because I just never did that scene. So, what can you tell me? Did you go party?
No, I slept through that.
Okay.
I was sleeping at the lights with crashed pretty early, and then you were up. You got back up around really early in the morning, like 2, 3.
What time did you guys crash? Roughly
8, maybe.
Okay.
And then, sorry. We woke up around that time that happened.
Okay.
And yeah.
What help me for somebody that doesn't know the layout of the sororities? Where's the lights compared to where Dylan and them live?
The whites is like, let's say, what's that street that so here's the whites apartment maybe.
Okay.
Like that's like the 2 apartment complexes,
right?
And I was like up here, and the other house is like back here.
Can you access that off of a side road, or does it come through the parking lot?
You go like the parking lot. You go right here.
Okay.
Go walk through.
For walking distance. What kind of distance?
I'd say so.
Okay. And that's apartment?
Yeah, the apartment.
Gotcha. Okay.
To go to there.
Okay. So, you guys woke up about that time. What woke you up to that point?
What woke us up?
Yeah. What's did you have?
Woke up.
Okay.
I don't really know.
What did you at that point?
We were just hanging out in the living room.
Yep.
Just talking. And then we were up till probably about almost 5.
Okay.
And then went back to bed. And then he woke up in the morning. I said probably around 9. Maybe earlier. I'm not really sure. I didn't sleep much.
Yeah.
And then came into the room.
Okay.
And then I think, and she sounded pretty scared. She said there was somebody in her house last night. They ran downstairs and locked himself in a room because she saw somebody in her house. She only sees nose in his chin or something like that.
Okay.
And then she was freaking out. She wanted us to go over there. So we got her stuff and went over there.
So you at the house didn't live?
No.
Right? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
They also didn't go to that, right?
I don't think so, no.
So when was nine in the morning ish? When was the time before that you saw?
I was up with and Jeff at 3.
So that you were hanging out with the girls at that point?
Yeah.
Was Hunter there?
Yeah, he was sleeping in the bed.
Okay.
Or he was at his apartment, I'm not sure. I remember being there though.
Okay. And then obviously knows girls. right?
Mm-hmm.
Is she part of that, or is she in a different sorority? Is she in her sorority right now?
Yeah.
She is. Okay.
Well, I think she might have dropped, but she's still technically, or maybe not technically.
Okay. So you woke up and we were there. Feeling normal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then, and
In the morning.
that was what time-ish?
Maybe around 10-ish.
Okay. And then you guys went over to the house. Did you all drive in the same car?
We walked.
Walked.
Because it's really close.
Not bad. Yeah, that was my bad. Trying to kill the environment by driving. So what happens when you get to the house?
Ran out, or they were crying, walking out, and there were 4 of us.
Was he with you guys left that apartment at the same time, or?
Yeah, he went ahead of us.
Okay.
He was, I think, really concerned.
Gotcha.
And we got there, was inside, and everyone was crying, and then I went into the downstairs door, but I didn't go up the stairs because it was up there too. And said, "Don't come up if you don't want to see this."
Okay. How well do you know? Did you know Ethan?
Not well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just knowing of him, kind of thing, through the girls.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever talk about Xana or Maggie or Kaylee? Maddie, sorry.
What do you mean?
Did she ever talk just about them having boyfriends, anything like that? Did she know Xana? And
Yeah.
so
No, they're really close friends.
right. So do you remember them talking about anything like boyfriends that are being assholes?
No.
Guys maybe at work that are being assholes, anything like that?
No.
Have you seen or heard anything on social media popping up?
No.
Okay.
My phone died.
Understood. My camera's about to do the same thing, so. Okay. Is any of the girls that you know of have any kind of stalking history or anything like that from you guys in the past?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I did hear say something about like a month ago there was like a guy stalking her or something like that. I think you might want to talk to her about that.
Okay. Anything else that I need to know that you can think of?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. And being 100 yards or ish away, did you hear anything? And did you hear anything? Fireworks?
No.
Backfires? Okay. All right. Obviously, if you think of anything, let us know.
So there's a couple things that stand out. I saw a lot of people's comments that are saying, why isn't this cop putting more pressure on it? That's a theme of all of these type of interviews that we watch. It seems as if there's things that absolutely 110% should be having pressure applied to them, and they don't. Right? They don't at all. The reason why I showed this interview is because if he was out drinking at the football game and then they go to bed at 8 and they take a nap, but then he says, I woke up when all that happened around 2 or 3. And then I didn't sleep much. Woke up, around 4 or 5 again, or whatever he says. And then at 9, or he says at 9, he wakes up. Did you hear anything on social media? No, my phone's dead. So he's up from like 2, goes back to bed around 4 or 5, wakes up at 9. Then he goes over there there's a lot of questions about that. His phone's that I don't know. It seems like the cop should have been questioning more on what was all going on. Why did you wake up? What do you mean when all that happened? Did you wake up because somebody woke you up, or did you wake up randomly and that was happening? Did you hear anything? And he's saying no. But how does that work? You woke up right when all that happened. By choice? Like I said, randomly? And you're just up for a couple hours. So, yeah, and by this time, why isn't his phone charged? It's a huge deal when Brian Cobberger's phone's off, tell you that much. But it's such a bland interview. Let me put some comments up on the screen. Yeah, eat a bag of D's. That's a funny username. Juvenile humor. But didn't sleep much, just at 8 p.m. to when it all happened. It's just all were asleep as the crime happened. Nobody heard anything. How convenient. Everyone heard about a man stalking them about a month ago. Right. At this point, they might as well ask him what he does know, because apparently it ain't shit. And Thoughts Loading, thank you so much for the super chat, said, wait, he was at the White Hive. Is that not where the other blood smears were, on the walkway and outside on the siding? I now have more questions. What the hell? That's a great point. That's a great point. Now, of course, they redact any and all specifics about which apartment, where he's at, right? I mean, we can guess and we can hear the beginning of names. But yes, it was that is where the blood smears were. So that's a great point. And Griping Girl, GRY, I'm sorry if I'm messing that up, but thank you so much for the big super chat. Said, no 10-year-old baseball tonight, so I get to be here live. Thank you for giving this your all. I never believed any of the story, especially not calling 911. I have 4 kids, and I would be relentless and demanding answers. Well, I'm glad that you are choosing to spend the night off in the Hive. We are happy to have you. I'm sorry I butchered your username, but thank you so much for the giant super chat. And I agree, the 911 call it seems to be the thing that really got the overwhelming majority of people interested in this case. Sounds like a lack of experience on the cops' part. None of these interviews do anything. Let's say that somebody does have a lack of experience. There are people that have lack of experience, though, that can still be really good at their job. And I would say for a case this big, I feel like, and I'm not calling you out, I am Canadian. I'm saying in general, whenever people say that, like they've never dealt with anything like this. Okay. So we just have to accept that it's going to suck then? There's probably a lot of small towns that haven't dealt with anything like this. And we're just going to have to accept it's going to be a poor, average, below average investigation because they don't have experience. I mean, and then if it's too much experience, it's like we're so busy we can't even keep all these cases straight. It's every other day we're attending a homicide or a drive-by or domestic violence, right? There's always this excuse, and it's like, I don't know. To me, and like I said, I am Canadian. That's not a dig at you. I hate that excuse. They don't have experience. Okay, get somebody that does. They had every 3-letter agency in the world there, and they didn't have resources. That's why the FBI were there, apparently, right? Call one of them in. Get Detective Gooch in there. Gooch is the only one that seemed to actually ask and backtrack on the questions that she asked Dylan, right? Yeah, it's like if you can't do your job. Yeah, that's what I just was saying. They had the FBI that supposedly helped. UFO Dog says the whole damn town was asleep and none of their phones were working. Yeah, Salty Suds. The FBI was already there, and yet, drum roll, nothing. Yeah, Truth Seeker so awake when they're new, they would work so much harder because they are new. Yeah, they want to prove themselves. That definitely seems like a career where that would be the case. It's a good point, Gramilla. The feds did it all. That's why MPD sounds like ass clowns. Dude, I still cannot get over. I think it was Polar Life Force was the username. And there was somebody else that has said this in the past too. Because if I put this full screen and I do the horn, I was playing the 1112 audio and they were losing their minds. They were like, it's a clown horn. There's a clown horn in the video. But it was really just because there was a comment that I had to clown horn. And I kind of feel bad that they probably went for so long trying to find a clown horn in any of those other 1112s. And it was really just me. Good times. So I have a couple other video clips here. We have our favorite mainstream anchor of all time, Miss Ashley Banfield, talking with Steve G.
And so
Why is Idaho protecting the monster?
the blunt injuries that they described in the autopsy, that we think that is him with his hands, literally.
No. I think there's another weapon.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, it's rounded with stripes in it, is how it was described to us.
Rounded with stripes?
Yeah, it was a rounded object that had stripes, so it bruised her with stripes around her mouth. So she started making noises, screaming. She woke up. They said she woke up. The blood pooled in a certain way to show that she was sitting up. And he kept punching her in her face and stabbing her in the top of her head.
Jesus Christ, what an animal.
Yeah, this is who they...
So I'm going to play that one more time. You listen to how he... So the second weapon has allegedly been described to Steve G.
And
Why
so
is Idaho protecting the monster?
the blunt injuries that they described in the autopsy, that we think that is him with his hands, literally.
No. I think there's another weapon.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, it's rounded with stripes in it, is how it was described to us.
Rounded with stripes?
Yeah, it was a rounded object that had stripes, so it bruised her with stripes around her mouth. So she started making noises, screaming. She woke up. They said she woke up. The blood pooled in a certain way to show that she was sitting up. And he kept punching her in her face and stabbing her in the top of her head.
Jesus Christ, what an animal.
Yeah, this is who they...
So rounded with stripes. Mick Yankee says it's a K-bar, you dumb fox. But he's saying there's a second weapon in addition to the knife. So you're saying that maybe he used, like, how would that happen? Would he grab the blade, or help me understand what you're saying there? Rounded with stripes. I guess the butt of a rifle, is that rounded though? That would be flat. Technically, isn't the butt of a rifle typically flat? Unless, again, it's on the side of it. The stripes, yes, on the butt of a rifle. Okay, McYankee says, yes, it's the same weapon. He's dumb. Okay. I thought there was something. Yeah, so the knife handle stripe, but how do you hit somebody with a knife handle, everybody? You got to grab the knife. And if it was Brian Cobberger, I don't think that you would be able to beat someone with a K-bar grabbing the knife, seeing how the sheath doesn't have any blood on it. A lot of people have said golf clubs. Look, I don't want to keep harping on this lacrosse thing. But I did some research into this, okay? Or like whatever, I looked into it. Rounded, it's got stripes. There's lines in it. You look at let me put this down. You look at a stick of a lacrosse, it's technically got like flat edges on it. It can bruise you, and it can bruise you rather severely as well. And those things are extremely durable. If you ever watch a lax game, they hit the shit out of each other with them. I would almost say a golf club is probably, I would say a golf club, if it's like a driver, drivers will break when you hit them sometimes. Or if you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, you do damage with a golf club. But I'm saying this, yeah, somebody said it's too wide for a mouth. Yeah, but what if it's the side of this? There's stripes right here. You know what I mean? There's right here. If you hit the side, it'd be probably what, an inch wide and a foot long. Salty Suds doesn't think that. Do you not think that getting hit with a lax stick would hurt? Yeah, like a putter or a high iron club would be tough to balance a strike with. A driver would be fragile. Somebody said, ask Tiger Woods. I want to know how the hell Tiger Woods doesn't have an all-time permanent driver at this point. That dude's going to end up hurting somebody else really bad. What is it? His 5th DUI, flipped his car today in Jupiter, Florida. So anyways, I wanted to show that, but and again, I mean, now here's another description.
Now, a fist can be a deadly weapon.
Right.
The injuries to the face, could that have simply been from a hand on her face?
No.
So you believe the injuries to her face came from something other than his fist?
Yes, I think the fist could have been part of it, but it certainly appears something else struck her to cause the marks that we saw that is not consistent with a fist.
What about marks near her mouth that came out? I believe they came out in public documents. Bound?
Yeah.
Gagged?
Those are what I'm referencing, and no, it doesn't appear. There was no evidence that she was bound or gagged.
Are the marks from a knife?
No.
So the reality is the extent of what was done to her may be a mystery forever.
Yeah, it may be.
Oh, dude. Okay. I feel like I'm watching 2 schoolboys get scolded by their principal right now. They totally know. And I get that they can't say it. She kind of caught herself too, where she's like, I believe it came out. So it's like, who's feeding the mainstream media information? But yeah, it may be a mystery forever, even though we know, we're just not going to tell you. And can one of my mods please email me the link to this full interview and let me know? Because I'd like to watch that again tonight. One's in the chat. If you're okay with a little bit longer of the stream, and mods, if you guys got to take off, but I got no bedtime tonight. Mrs. Birdie's hanging out with one of her girlfriends. I'm going to hang out in the Hive. I'd like to rewatch this interview after we get through some of the pictures. One's in the chat if you're down to hang out. Because I think that it'd be interesting to go back. There's no rules tonight, Hive. No rules. Look at all those ones. Love it. So what I have next is I have a decent amount of pictures to go through and things that make you go, okay, I've been doing this as of lately because I don't really know what they mean. And it's interesting to see how everybody interprets it when I put them on the screen. So going back to the whole lacrosse net and the Van shoes, we know that Jeffrey Gentry said it doesn't seem consistent with a Van shoe. He's talking about a different type of shoe. When I see this, though, when I look at these knots kind of right here, I could see it. And I know that there's probably people in here that are like, dude, it's not a lacrosse thing. But it's also like, okay, then what is it? We got a guy who's investigated 4,000 deaths and he's one of 60 in the world saying it's not a Vans shoe print. So I don't know. And this isn't the only type of lacrosse, netting, I'm sure, just like this isn't the only type of Vans bottom. But a lot of people have said Chucks. Military shoes, Dickies shoes. Well, and so thank you. It's nap time 3301. This is what Sammy T Mafia and I were discussing after our live last night, is if you were to think about a longer object, right? So for example, if it was a golf club or if it was a lacrosse stick, think about how much more cast off would probably be slung from that versus, what's a K-bar, 9, 10 inches, right? I mean, think about if you're using two hands, the force that you could get on that. I'm saying something that's longer, something that you would really like almost wind up and swing that would create that much cast off makes more sense to me. And so again, it's just these things make me go, Phoenix Rising, thank you so much for the super chat. Said, where'd it go? Said, everyone has been on DM, but Bethany's been silent, or Bethany's silence is louder. To me, she has the most to hide. She's the one who everyone said was dealing rugs. 2 liars. Well, I find it interesting too. People are saying that Bethany was the one that saw them at one point. There's report 90 that we read. Bethany called 911, right? There's all this stuff. She goes to Nevada. She's apparently got exculpatory information. She would fight the subpoena. It's all crazy. It is crazy. I agree with this. You always got to worry about the quiet ones. And Angel Heart 7926, thank you for the super chat, said, AI confirmed that the print on Maddie's bedsheet is a lacrosse glove, and it could definitely be the print on the floor. Well, Angel Heart, you beat me to it. I have that photo. I have the screenshot from Murder Metal Mayhem's video. And I did watch that video as well, talking about how, and I'll show you it and we can explain it. But yes, thank you for bringing that up and thank you for the super chat. My question is this too. Even if there was a cleanup for hours, does anybody else find it rather impressive that there's only one latent print? How do we explain that? One latent print. We've seen Ethan and Xana's room on the floors. How is that possible? And that's a question that I'm going to have for Jeffrey as well. You guys saw it when Jeffrey did his demo of when he did it in his kitchen. You guys saw how much and how easy that blood walked out. Here's what I'm trying to say. By the time the shoe print, by the time that the shoe print in Jeffrey's video ends up looking like the one on the picture there, let's watch again and let's see how many steps Jeffrey had to take until the blood started to look like that. It was a lot of steps to get to that point.
So I just created multiple impact spatter stains here on the floor. They're projected up onto the wall. So this would be a blood pool. It's just a volume of blood that pools up on a surface. So it takes the shape of the surface. This is tile, so it doesn't absorb in at all. You got multiple drip stains around it. So I've already created my spatter on the inside of my shoes here. It's on both shoes. So this would be consistent with a suspect shoes because you see the blood spatter coming back away from the front of the shoe, like as if they were inflicting the injury. So now I'm just going to step in this blood pool and show you what a pattern transfer looks like. Okay, so I'm going to just step. So this would be like a suspect, maybe walking away from a scene. So you get multiple footwear impressions walking away from the point of impact. Okay, so this is a great example of impact spatter, blood pools, drip stains, and then pattern transfers. Okay, again, this is my house, so
I mean, look at how many prints he would have to take, or how many steps he'd have to take to get the prints to be like that. That's crazy to me. You know what I mean? It's crazy to me. And I'm not, look, we could go and we could look at all of these different types of shoes and we could say, no, it's this pattern, or no, it's that pattern. We're all, to me, yes, it can look like that. I almost think that rather than trying to figure out, is it a shoe print? It's just, is it something else? Is it not a Vans shoe print? That to me is kind of almost as big as it needs to be from the starting point. Okay. Because if it's not a latent shoe print, and let's say it is from something else set down and they thought it was a latent shoe print, because you look at that. Yeah. Oh, Vans. What does that look like? Oh, it kind of looks like Vans. Okay. We'll say it's one latent shoe print. How is that possible? Artsy says, I have my police fiance watching this with me. Well, what does he say? Or what does she say? How is that possible? What would you do if you pulled up to a scene and somebody said there was an unconscious person and there's a brutal quadruple homicide by stabbing that apparently nobody saw anything but a masked man and they didn't call for 8 hours? We should do a law enforcement call-in show. We should do a law enforcement call-in show, and it should just be in 30 seconds or less. Tell me how you would initially react. Because I just can't understand that. How do you not question it immediately and intensely? Love and Other Habits, thank you so much for the super chat. Said, Birdie, if Jeff created this example, yes, he's a professional, but it confirms it could be staged. Oh, wait. They would never do that. Nobody would ever plant evidence, or, I'm sure that crime scene forensic experts who's got over 4,000 deaths investigated and teaches courses and, has probably worked with the FBI in past cases. I'm sure that, and I'm not saying Jeff has ever done this, but it's possible. It is possible. It's a great point. Love and Other Habits. Thank you. Angel Heart said, David B., a.k.a. Dirty South, and Lyndon played lacrosse. Ethan and David Barry despise one another. Seems like, how the hell did that get there? It's not a Vans. Yeah. And one of the other things, too, that is odd about all that is, for what it's worth, that 4chan post it kind of touches on the whole lax thing, too, which is odd. And thank you. That's a great point, Angel Heart. It's a great point. And Angel Heart said, Angel Heart again said, remember, there was a clean up. There could have been more prints that were lacrosse looking. I don't disagree. I completely agree there was a cleanup, but what I'm wondering is there's so many chemicals out there that can, luminol. They decided to, like, even Jeffrey was like, yeah, Amido Black makes a mess. It just looks like you pour it everywhere. Yes, they're only doing it in high contact areas, as he stated. It seems archaic compared to luminol, in my opinion. Please, Boots. If only. It's so crazy how there's literally, when I'm reading all these comments going through, there's such a difference of opinion about everything. And that's great. That's a good thing. But it's so hard because when you have a thought in your head, it's hard to get off of it. It's nice we have all these other things, but yeah, I don't know how it's possible. And it's wild that everybody's got all these ideas and it makes sense until it doesn't make sense. And that could be the narrative. That could be a theory. That could be so many things in this case. to be frank, I'm tired of it. I just want to know the damn truth. Now, this is what what Angel Heart was talking about with Murder Metal Mayhem. I have his username up there. Go give him a like and a follow. But he was reached out to by somebody that was comparing this print here to a lacrosse glove. Okay. And this is the AI breakdown of it. Certain grip patterns. And I forget exactly what he said. He said it could be plausible, but AI was matching up all of these things. And I'm not sure what to make of it. But one thing that this did make pop out in my head, okay? And Dylan Moore just said that's not a lacrosse glove. Yes, it is. What kind of glove is that then? It's literally the definition of a lacrosse glove. I'm so confused. So, anyways, my point in saying this is that those are thick. They give you padding to not have your hands beat up by the stick. I don't know. It's obviously probably not going to stop a knife, but the AI breakdown said it was plausible. I don't know. This is going to be something again that I asked Jeff. Maybe goalkeeper gloves, maybe. Beyond reasonable doubt said Dickies non-slip shoe disposable. Look at rifle butt plates. Okay, let's see. Dickies. Are you talking about Detective Mowry said maybe it was someone in a wheelchair since there's no footprints. Christ. That's crazy. So okay. I could see that. Again, it's like we could argue forever, or we could debate forever about what type of shoe bottom it is, right? I mean, there's so many shoes that have a diamond style pattern. It's a great thought. And then like the rifle butt plates, yeah, that they have stripes on it. There's no doubt they do. I think, like I said, just the fact that it might not be a Vans shoe is crazy. But also, how much did the latent print even influence it for Cobberger? It's like people just forget about that. Yeah, and to be honest, I feel like it's in a weird spot for a shoe print too. Why only one? See, now I'm diving too much into the chat where people are like, where I'm just like, okay, I could be on Google for 9 hours. Yes. So I'm trying to say, like, there's a lot that could probably look like it. And so here's something else. I mean, obviously Dylan's room is very disheveled, but when I was clicking through these last night, which by the way, if there's anything that people see in this and you want me to zoom in, let me know. I'll keep an eye on the chat. But as I'm going through these, I notice, like, see these things right here, these little speckles, right? I find that odd, and I don't think that was like from time of the month period blood. Sorry, I know that people have said that in the past, but like spattered like that. It also kind of looks like something's on the purse. Someone said bed bugs. So the other thing too is, 2 licenses. I'm not sure if people have seen that before or knew that, but to me, I'm like, is that a fake ID? And people might know some of this stuff. Like I said, we consume a lot about it, but and I understand too, like if you're using a purse and you're going out, you get drinks on it, you get all that other stuff. And then going back to this shoe print, like I said, I really just feel like could it be as simple as, oh, it looks like a Vans shoe. There's also a Chuck shoe sitting right there. So what people have said Chucks and people have said Vans, both are inside Dylan's room for what they said. But think about just the placement of this seems odd. Wait, where did somebody said there's a charger right there? Yeah, you know what's funny? I looked that up too. I saw that, Bubbly. I put that in. Yeah, right up here too. It says federal limits apply. But when I look closer, and maybe I can zoom in on this. When you look closer, it looks like it's the top of the ID in this next photo. Because you can kind of see the bottom of the T, O, and N. And then, so I believe that that's what it means. Or you say it in general. Detective Bowery says it's an officer footprint, damn it, it's in the docs. I know. People have said that as well. And I've seen that document. But if it's not a footprint, like, is that just something they're saying? Like, oh, it's a Vans latent shoe print, or oh, it could have belonged to an officer. Right? Right. Yeah, it looks like it's torn apart. So does Bethany's to an extent too. I agree. It does just seem very weird. Somebody, Luna sent me a text too. Speaking of the deep clean, which UFO Dog just said, I'd hate to see your bed before the deep clean. It is interesting, just if you want to put on your critical thinking hat, how, they told a story specifically about grabbing golf clubs. Right. And I'll read this because it's a good point. I feel like some people in here are going to love this. Others might not be too fond of it. But it says, there have been rumors that golf clubs may have been used in the commission of this crime. And I find it interesting that that she gave a testimony that would place their fingerprints on the golf clubs. Right? That is strange. Like, if they thought that far ahead and they thought back to when their door was open, we can say, oh, our door was open and we grabbed golf clubs. If they were to ever find their DNA on it, that is a very high level of forward thinking that would be impressive. But it doesn't seem like that's a pattern, right, throughout the entirety of any of the interviews. But it is convenient. Rolo said these cops on body cam said these kids don't clean up after themselves. Yikes. Also, Hive, I'm going to load up that other video. We are only 13 subscribers away from 25,000 subscribers. I would love to hit that this Friday evening. So if there's 13 of you that haven't hit subscribe, it's completely free. And it'd be cool to run that number on up over it. And I would appreciate that. Like I said, just hitting like and subscribe is all that I ask. It helps push this information out there. Now, here's a close-up of it. Is that a gummy? I think it's a gummy. I'm trying to zoom in 1 second. There it goes. Is that gummy bear? It's a vitamin. It's a vitamin. Yes. No, it was a great take. Great take. That's an ashwagandha gummy. Wow. Yeah. I don't know, guys. It's just and I saw here's this super chat from Carmack20. Thank you so much. Said I know it's a stretch and the design is off a bit, but these vans do have the diamond bottom cross path XC. Love your vids, bud. Well, thank you so much for the super chat. I do have a good picture of I think I actually showed it. So let's do this. Give me a second here. All right, let's do this. Like, would you guys agree this is close? Let's brighten it up. I don't know. Again, I think I'm falling back into the trap. Oh, search that name, Crosspath XC. That's what you were saying. Oh, wait. I see. Vans Crosspath XC. Okay. This will be the last shoe print that I do. But let's see. Let's do this. Again, if anybody knows a plug at Canva, more than happy to plug it on the stream. I've been using it since I started streaming. I love Canva. Maybe these. See, but doesn't it look like the shoe is either going, this direction or that direction? I don't see the shoe going this way. But if you were to, like, I could see that. It's actually super close. If I get it smaller. But like I said, I don't think that diamond patterns are that unusual. It's not unusual to be. Yeah, I don't think it would be that angle. But thank you for the super chat. I mean, like I said, I'm sure that there's a handful of shoes out there that might be able to, match closely. It's a latent print. It's partially degraded. And then this is another thing too that I saw that was kind of, I don't know what I was thinking, but if you look at what was hanging on Dylan's room, this one kind of got to be down in the lower left. And this one too. They all get to me. They're good drawings, but hey, we did it. Nice. Appreciate that, guys. Go to Ward for the Hive. 25,000 subscribers. You guys are awesome. Thank you to everybody that did. That is epic. And the timing of that, too, that's what I was kind of saying, too. Excuse me. It's kind of a live dig. I'm into the chat a lot tonight, and that's what I love these Friday nights for. They're not as structured. And, hitting 25K on top of it being Friday and where I'm able to dive into the comments a ton is awesome. Yeah, Law Cheeks. Thank you so much. Is that different than Law Cheek 79? We have Law Cheeks and we have Law Chick. And they said it smells nice in here. 25 and 25K. Let's go. Thank you. That's epic. You guys rock. So, all right, here we go, Hive. I have that interview now pulled up here. And let's watch this. It's been a while since I've seen this. And let's go back to the theme in the beginning of tonight's stream, which was we know the evidence, or let's not have the story we've been told influence how we see the evidence. Let's just keep an open mind when we're listening to this, okay? It's nap time. Thank you. You deserve it just for all that shoe detective work. My little brother called me last night after the stream. And he's like, dude, I could tell that you were rather just shocked that the netting of a lacrosse stick lined up. And then it turned into you were about to be Googling every shoe. And I'm like, yeah, I know. It's hard to pull it up on the spot and have it line up and go quickly and keep the rhythm. And what did I fall right into the trap of tonight? I did that. So we're going to move on to this interview and let's listen to this now, like I said, without the story or the narrative influencing the way we look at it.
You collected numerous devices, but you collected an active phone that he had. What did you find on that phone?
Well, the phone, it just provided us and matched up everything that we mostly already had. We'd already conducted search warrants and had a lot of his activity, a lot of his phone usage. So when we actually had the physical phone and we were able to do the extract of it, we didn't gain a lot from it. We know that he was clearing a lot of his devices and wiping things from them. We know that he used VPNs. So, but we also did find screenshots and pictures of news coverage of Moscow.
On the case.
Correct.
That's so classic.
Right.
It has been said that there were pictures on.
Brian Cobberger also got a text from WSU about this as well. And if everybody who looked up the crimes that happened in Moscow was guilty and somehow connected to the murder, half that city would be in cuffs, right? That doesn't make any sense. Oh, that's classic. Looking up the crime. Let's look at all your phone histories. Let's look at these people's. It's just insane that's guilt. Tiffany Elena, thank you so much for the super chat, as well as Jesse Ray says, let's freaking go. I love it. I love it. Yeah, we'd all be in cuffs. He used VPNs. Oh my God. All right, let's watch this now. I will do my best to not interrupt it. Or do you guys want me to stop it and comment on it? Let me know.
You collected numerous devices, but you collected an active phone that he had. What did you find on that phone?
Well, the phone, it just provided us and matched up everything that we mostly already had. You know, we'd already conducted search warrants and had a lot of his activity, a lot of his phone usage. So when we actually had the physical phone and we were able to do the extract of it, you know, we didn't gain a lot from it. You know, we know that
kind of cut out there.
we know that he was clearing a lot of his devices and wiping things from them. We know that he used VPNs. So, but we also did find screenshots and pictures of news coverage of Moscow.
On the case.
Correct.
Classic.
That's so classic.
Right.
It has been said that there were pictures on his young people in Moscow and that Maddie, possibly Kaylee, were in some of those photos. Is there any truth to that?
No truth at all. There was not, to this date, we have never found a single connection, anything, between any of the 4 victims or the other 2 surviving roommates with him. No pictures, no texts, no. There was rumor, speculation that he was following some of them on different social media sites. There was sites that were sent to us of, hey, this is him, he's following. They were either untrue or they were sites that people made that were completely fake. And so we had to research and go into every single one of those just to prove or debunk what somebody had made up to, you know, and of course, then that spread to the media and it went wild that he was following or there was a connection and there wasn't. We wanted that, you know. I think naturally we need that, you know, what's the connection? What's the why? And we have found zero, never.
So seriously, right there, Brian Cobberger could most likely submit an appeal and you could show this to the jury. You could show this to the jury. You could show Bill Thompson and what his statements were at the sentencing and the plea deal where he goes, now I will admit we cannot place Brian Cobberger inside of 1122. I would have been like, Judge, I recant my plea deal. They can't put me inside the house. They have no connection to me or anybody. None of them. A lot of the stuff that people might have heard was fake or made up, and they've debunked them all. Not a single 1-0. My phone wasn't useful. You could literally just show this video. And it's funny because there's people that think he's so guilty. These are the people that investigated him. So it's just crazy. At this point, if you don't look into it or change your mind about this case, at least that there's reasonable doubt. It's a stubborn choice, in my opinion.
For any connection.
I saw the amount of search warrants that you applied for and got returns on, and I don't think we saw the returns, but the work you were doing was monumental going through everything. And I saw that in the documents. You know, back at the house, we have now learned, because documents that have not been public have now been made public, and Xana Kernodle found on the floor.
So Jello can never be creme brulee is a funny username. Said, I call BS. He was following KG and MM on TikTok and liking all of MM's pictures. He just said that those were all either made up or fake.
Surviving roommates with him. No pictures, no texts, no. There was rumor, speculation that he was following some of them on different social media sites. There was sites that were sent to us of, hey, this is him, he's following. They were either untrue or they were sites that people made that were completely fake. And so we had to research and go into every single one of those just to prove or debunk what somebody had made up and of course, then that spread to the media and it went wild that he was following or there was a connection, and there wasn't. We wanted that, I think naturally we need that, what's the connection? What's the why? And we have found zero, never any connection.
I saw the amount of search warrants that you applied for and got returns on, and I don't think we saw the returns, but the work you were doing was monumental going through everything, and I saw that in the documents. Back at the house, we have now learned, because documents that have not been public have now been made public, and Xana Kernodle found on the floor over 50 stab wounds, much of them defensive. Can you explain that? Put that into layman's terms, the wounds and the defensive aspect of them.
She fought back, and she fought hard. And that's unless Darren can expand on that, that's primarily the reason.
Yeah, that was. Xana absolutely fought. And we know that Xana was up. We know that Xana had just gotten her DoorDash shortly before this. And
so here's a question that I have. So as I'm listening to this, right, we have to be aware of our own bias. If he's saying, yeah, they had nothing, no connection, we never found anything on his phone, we wanted there to be a connection, and we're going to take that as like, oh my God, they're admitting this. What I find interesting is, yes, they're being vague and they're being very broad. Now, he could be sticking to the narrative on this, but why would he almost like protect Brian and say that after the network that he's on has crucified Brian, right? And then yet go and say this with, Xana fought, she fought hard. We know she had just gotten her DoorDash, right? So that is interesting. Hey, Carmack said classic. Yeah. Classic. And followed up with the second super chat. Thank you so much, Carmack 20. Go to Ward for saying, and ends up commenting saying they never found anything to connect him. Never found anything that put him inside that house. Classic. Classic. Is that how you were typing it out in that tone?
Was actively up, and so yeah, she did. She fought.
So as she fought back, he kept stabbing.
The fight just continued. Yes.
Kaylee, in the documents that just became public, there was a preliminary autopsy report that said she was stabbed over 20 times. Mr. Gonsalves said, and we haven't seen the final autopsy, but he has said she was stabbed, Kaylee, over 30 times. Do you know the amount of times she was stabbed?
We do. We know the exact amount of times that every one of them was stabbed. And it's not something that we would speak about for the privacy of the families. And but I can tell you we've met with families, and his information that he has is very accurate.
Well, we know because of the public documents, her face was unrecognizable. And then the concept of, okay, a second weapon Where do you stand on that to set the record straight?
Yeah, we believe that there was one primary weapon. The same knife was used to kill all four.
Yet there's not a blood mixture there's not a blood mixture between the two rooms. So Ethan and Xana's blood was not mixed with Kaylee and Maddie's. And that is something that Jeffrey Gentry, again, the blood spatter expert, the crime scene forensic expert, he'll be on Wednesday, but he talked about it last time. He said that would only be possible if you were to clean the knife in between. I did find it interesting, and kind of interesting, because I think, can somebody go in and stab 4 people and kill them with a knife in that amount of time? He said yes, but under the circumstances of never been inside the house, you don't know who's in what room, right? He doesn't seem that athletic or strong. We know that they fought back. He didn't have a scratch on him. There's no blood in his car or his apartment. There's just trace DNA with no chain of custody on it. That's when it gets very sus, in my opinion.
As has been reported, and I think the family has spoke to this, Kaylee was struck in the face, and we don't know what caused the marks that were left by it. It wasn't fatal, and
whoa, that's interesting. That's the first time that I've realized he says that second weapon that caused the marks on Kaylee's face was not fatal.
It wasn't fatal, and we just don't know what caused that. And we've never located, obviously, the knife that we know did kill all 4, and we don't know what was used to do that.
Now, a fist.
So they never found. So technically, we need to say they've not found either murder weapon. So they're saying there was 2 murder weapons. The one that struck Kaylee in the face was not fatal. Okay. And they didn't find the knife. So there's 2 weapons, but we know that it was used by one person, even though the blood's not mixed. Make that make sense. These are simple questions. And I don't even think they're that complicated of questions.
Can be a deadly weapon.
Right.
The injuries to the face, could that have simply been from a hand on her face?
No.
So you believe the injuries to her face came from something other than his fist?
Yes, I think the fist could have been part of it, but it certainly appears something else struck her to cause the marks that we saw that is not consistent with a fist.
What about marks near her mouth that came out? I believe they came out in public documents.
Ooh, slipped up right there. Probably puckered tight after saying that on accident, because not at that time.
That came out, I believe they came out in public documents. Bound?
Yeah.
Gagged?
And those are what I'm referencing, and no, it doesn't appear, there was no evidence that she was bound or gagged.
Which is also strange, because there's the minutes of a meeting where Steve G is telling Judge Hippler he doesn't even like the word gag order because some of the victims were found bound and gagged. One's in the chat if you remember that. And I'm not gonna pull it up right now, but I've shown that on the stream in the past. So oh man.
That came out, I believe they came out in public documents. Bound?
Yep.
Gagged?
And those are what I'm referencing, and no, it doesn't appear, there was no evidence that she was bound or gagged.
Are the marks from a knife?
No.
He knows what it's from. He totally knows what it's from. So he was saying earlier, we don't know what it's from. And we never have located that or the knife. but the knife was used to kill all 4 people. And she's asking, was it caused from a knife? And he said no. And he's giving no description on it.
So the reality is the extent of what was done to her may be a mystery forever.
Well, and sorry, I don't want to keep pausing, but like Bethy B to you, I don't really think this reveals anything. It's the same BS answers. What I was saying earlier then, so is it BS then about Brian Cobberger not having a connection? Brian Cobberger not following them or stalking them? Because they're saying, no, there's no connection. We didn't find anything. We wanted that. That's my point is, why is that truth? Or why would they lie about him having no connection? This is right after he was sentenced or took the plea deal. I forget which one. Does that make sense? Like, I don't get why they would do that.
Yeah, it may be.
We saw publicly, it came out in...
And so I'm stopping this way more than I wanted to. This pause right here, you could tell she had a follow-up question and she's making a decision after their body language and how she answered it. She looks down at her notes and she's like, okay, moving on.
Extent of what was done to her may be a mystery forever.
Yeah, it may be.
We saw publicly, it came out in legal filings, the selfie taken just hours after this all happened. He has a thumbs up. How do you interpret that picture?
She is trying so hard to get any kind of soundbite. Listen to what she says after this. She's like, but the thumbs up.
That's hard to answer without putting my own opinion into it. This individual, there's a lot of strange things about him and his demeanor and his way his brain works. So to say what I think that would be pure speculation.
What about law enforcement theory? Because his thumb is up, right? His thumb is up. So that denotes...
Right, but the reality was we have many, many other pictures of him, selfies, where he has a very similar pose. It wasn't just one unique that was only that way. That's probably the one that's circulated the most now. And I think you can make lots of speculation because of the timing, but the reality was there's other pictures where he has that similar pose.
Excellent point to put it in perspective. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Do you believe that he committed other murders before November 13th, 2022?
We don't. We don't have any evidence. We don't have anything that's ever been located or found. We certainly, I mean the FBI, the Pennsylvania State Police, every law enforcement agency that would have been anywhere that he's ever been has taken a hard look into that, because that's certainly one of the first things you wonder. Has this occurred before? And there's nothing to support or show that he's ever done this before. And we don't believe that he ever had done it before.
So this would have been his first.
Yes.
Obviously, you believe he would have gone on to do this again?
I don't know. I don't know. It's a great question. I don't know.
I was talking with...
Is he trying not to laugh? Is he trying not to laugh? Obviously, he would have. So hang on. She starts with the question of, has he committed murders before? And he goes, no, we have no evidence of that. The FBI, the Pennsylvania State Police, we don't think he has. So he's obviously going to do this again. That was the line of questioning.
I don't know. Has this occurred before? And there's nothing to support or show that he's ever done this before, and we don't believe that he ever had done it before.
So this would have been his first.
Yes.
Obviously, you believe he would have gone on to do this again?
I don't know. It's a great question. I truly don't know.
I was talking with a district attorney in California that said to me, Gene, he's a serial killer. And I guess by definition, because serial killer is 3 or more in that area. So do you consider him a serial killer, even though it's one episode?
No, I don't. It's not a term we've used at all, but I would tell you
But yet everybody in the news said that. Like, do you know how many serial killers the United States and just all over the world there would be if anybody that killed more than 3 people is a serial killer? That's classified as a serial killer. It's only one episode though. So no, it's what would be the actual term for that? Like a multi-victim homicidal maniac, a drive-by shooting, a mass casualty event. No, but this time it's going to be a serial killer. Look at the look on his face. He can't even believe that this woman's asking him that. He can't even believe that this lady just asked him. So he's obviously going to do it again. Do you consider him a serial killer? We don't. We don't even use that term. We've never used it. What? Like this is insanity. Yeah, the gig is up. I agree, Rolo.
No.
I was talking with a district attorney in California that said to me, Gene, he's a serial killer. And I guess by definition.
And that's a district attorney telling her that. That's also terrifying.
Because serial killer is 3 or more in that area. So do you consider him a serial killer, even though it's one episode?
No, I don't. It's not a term we've used at all, but I would tell you we've just not looked at that or thought about that. We were obviously consumed by the investigation and the murders here. So I would certainly leave that to the experts. And
I just call him what he is. It's a murderer.
Quadruple murder.
And he will now die in prison for doing that.
So you've studied this for 2.5 years. You were just on the eve before trial. It's complicated. What is your working theory as law enforcement investigators on why he did what he did?
That's the biggest question. And it's the same question we've had, and we've had it all along. But the reality is often we don't get the answers to the why. And I think even in some instances, and I think this certainly could be one of those, the why from him may make no sense at all to us and not even be explainable or understandable. So,
but you never asked him to. You never made a requirement of the plea deal. Everyone's trying to figure out why. We don't know. It might not make sense to us. It could be unexplainable, just like many other times. No, ask him. If you want this plea deal, if you want the death penalty off the table, if you're so sure that he did that, tell us why and how. Where's the weapon? Where are the clothes? Did you clean up? It's very simple. This is not rocket science. If there's any leverage that they would have had in that situation and they truly thought that it was him, they would have asked those questions, in my opinion. The motive is a huge factor for the jury.
We don't have a motive. We don't have anything that has said, here's why, or here's the reason. We just don't have that.
Well, he used a knife, multiple stabbings. In law enforcement, what does it denote when you have a deadly weapon that is a knife?
I would say, typically, if you look back historically, a lot of crimes that are committed with knives are a little more personal. But again, that's also speculation. As Lieutenant Gilbertson said, we all would like to understand and make some sort of sense of why in this situation. But that's just something that I don't think we're ever going to know.
What are your thoughts about when he was in graduate school in Pennsylvania? He had a project and he developed a questionnaire sending to convicted murderers around the country what their state of mind was before they committed the murder, during the time they were committing the murder, and after they committed the murder. What does that tell you about his state of mind in doing a project like that?
Yeah, I think he's very consumed with it. And I would tell you, we looked into all of that. We obviously have everything that he's studied, every project, every course that he's been in during all of his higher education, to include at WSU. And at the same time, though, anybody else that's in those fields, they're doing the similar things, the similar type projects. So,
and let's just look this up. How many criminology? So about 10 to 11,000 students graduate per year in 2021 through 2022. That means that, assuming they all have a similar curriculum, 10,878 people. Now, if you include criminal justice in that, it's over 100,000 people.
every project, every course that he's been in during all of his higher education, to include at WSU. And at the same time, though, anybody else that's in those fields, they're doing the similar things, the similar type projects. So none of those were a one-off to only him. We could find many, many, many other students that were also doing the same or very similar. It's hard to not look at it and view that as part of the overall, is that part of the why? Is that part of why he did this? And again, but it's just speculation and assumptions.
But I think you said something very valuable, consumed by it.
Right.
Because objectively speaking, when you look at everything, I think that is a reasonable conclusion. Consumed. I wanted to ask you.
Also, for people that don't know, that survey was linked, or I'm sorry, that project that he was doing, what they forget to say and what they leave out often, if not every time, is that, yes, he was using Reddit because of the that you could be anonymous on it. But when you clicked the link, it took you to the research project that was approved by DeSalle's board. Okay, it had to be approved by the research board. It's not just Brian Cobberger doing this on his free time. It's an actual approved project. And it's just crazy.
The president of Donald Trump cares about the victims in this case. And he has spoken out twice now about the families, the victims. Has he contacted anyone in Idaho at all that you know of about this case and his concern?
No, not that I'm aware of.
No, not that I'm aware of. And yeah, somebody said that he had commented something the other day, and I thought they were joking, but apparently he did.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to tell me that this guy who's investigating the case, how many other cases have you worked on ever in your career? And you're going to say, apparently he did. Like, really? That just seems odd.
So, but no, nothing that we know personally.
Right. Do you know at all if the Department of Justice has reached out for any of your files? Because he did travel from Washington to Idaho to commit the murders. He ordered the knife on Amazon through interstate commerce. He did allegedly stalk the home. That was a working theory, right, for months before. There are federal crimes in that area. Has there been any communication? It's only been a few days, but.
Not for the department.
What does she mean by there are federal crimes in that area? Am I missing the context that she was like, maybe she's just, or I'm not understanding what she's saying? What would that mean? There are federal crimes in that area? Or am I the only one that thinks that that's weird? Because that could be the case too.
A working theory, right, from months before. There are federal crimes in that area. Has there been any communication? It's only been a few days, but.
Not for the Department of Justice, other than through the FBI, who's been a fantastic partner with us the entire time. They literally opened anything that we needed. And it was a phenomenal resource, and we could not thank them enough for all of their efforts.
I saw that, and I'm sure the partnership was so tremendously valuable. When they started the investigative genetic genealogy, which really is at the forefront of stopping crimes from continuing to happen, they were fast on that. They got you that name. What was that like when you did get that name?
Well, it was, I'll let Darren take that one, but.
Yeah, it was incredible. We received a call that evening from them, and they told us that they had some information for us and said that they had a name and provided the name. And I think we were all in disbelief, because you've worked so hard and went through so much to that point, and then to just like that have a name. So yeah, it felt surreal, and disbelief and all those emotions, but that's only very quick and momentarily, because then we have a name. So then we start a whole new bit of work, and we start diving into this name and who he is. And so there was just never much time to really think about anything, because we were just consistently moving on. So
Genetic genealogy as that investigative tool, that tip, do you find it indispensable in today's day and age?
Absolutely. Yeah, both, with the Idaho State Police, we have a contract with Othram Laboratories in Texas, and the work that they do, it's incredible. They're solving crimes that are 40, 50 years old, that we would never have any closure or be able to solve those. And so that and the FBI is doing the same, and it's unbelievable. It's a phenomenal tool.
Yeah. Are the students here in Moscow, are they safe now?
Yes, our community is safe.
Do you have any concern of copycat artists or anything that could, as the judge say, want their 15 minutes of fame?
We at the Moscow Police Department, and so did Lieutenant Gilbertson when he joined the Idaho State Police, we swore an oath to protect our communities from any and all threats. And so, although this case will always be a part of our history, and quite frankly, one that I'm proud of the work that we did, it doesn't change the fact that we continue to do the same job that we signed up to do. And that is day in, day out, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We have officers out there doing the work, keeping the community safe.
So here's what I have to say about that. And I've said this in the past. I almost feel like this is the case, more so than ever. Let me just get this back up on screen. When I watch that, guys, when I watch pretty much every interview about this, pretty much, I can't help but think to myself, there's no way that anybody is capable of telling that many bold-faced lies with a smirk on their face. There's no way that all of these people in the justice system can be in on railroading somebody when it's this big of a headline. There's no way that now that everything is released, there's not a line of defense attorneys out the door to get Brian Cobberger a fair trial or retrial. There's no way that any of this happens unless after a certain point, if this was a genuine mistake, Brian Cobberger was looped into it because the people this was tied to or connected to could not become public. Or also, one of my other theories is that the reason for continuously and still redacting all this is that, is there a case that's still ongoing? Right? Is there a case that's still ongoing? Is there a chance, and hear me out, is there a chance that not only are the real killers out there, but they don't know where they are? What if they got out of the country? What if they have ties to other people? I'm just saying, national security, all the redactions, there's odd funding going to these schools. The interviews, you don't got to be a rocket scientist. You can watch this and know nothing about the case. So at a certain point, like, when do we stop spinning our wheels and start thinking, not like we're just trying to get somebody off the hook that's been wrongfully convicted? I believe that we have, as a community that have looked into the Idaho 4 case, really done a good job at showing there's a lot of reasonable doubt. There's so much reasonable doubt, the entire damn Pacific Northwest Highway could drown in it at this point. They could drown in it 10 times over. Okay. The eyewitnesses, they're not credible. Brian Cobberger, nothing on him, nothing in his car, nothing on his apartment. Trace DNA, no chain of custody. These are facts that you can read. This isn't just Birdie and everybody else in here making stuff up. You can go read them. He's not a serial killer. He's never killed anybody before. They don't think he was going to do it again. And so, yes, we've proved Brian's innocent. We've also stayed within the same construct and the same pool of people that, full transparency, at this point, I find it hard to believe that it's anybody just walking around that we know their name of. I'm not saying that it's not possible. I know that's probably an unpopular opinion, but that's where I get to a certain point where I'm like, you can't go and lie for just somebody that's out there. Their names are redacted. You can FOIA all their stuff, right? So I believe that after a certain point, like, and I'm going to do a little bit of a poll here. One's in the chat. How many people think Brian Cobberger is working with the feds or has some sort of like Fed credentialing? I mean, he's a criminology student. He's a PhD. Doesn't fit it at all. They have no connection to him. There's got to be some tie to law enforcement, whether it's a public-facing patsy, whether they are covering it up for an ongoing investigation. I believe that this has to cover up something so much bigger. Or the people that they're covering up for are tied to so much bigger. And it's like, let's get the little fish so we can get the big fish. And Meanie, yes, so it's funny. This was a Discord question of the day not too long ago, and Meanie had asked, if BK is a staged patsy, they know he didn't do it and are making it look like he did for whatever reason, wouldn't they stage his, quote, guilt better than just some touch DNA on a movable object? And at first thought, you would think so, but by having more guilt, right, by having more guilt, that leaves it up to more subjection, more pictures, more of this, more things for people to dive into. We have invisible evidence, seriously, invisible evidence that convicted Brian Cobberger. It's a digital theory paired with invisible evidence. That's all that it is. There's no chain of custody on the IGG. So why would they do that? I don't know if it's plausible deniability down the road. I don't know if it's harder to argue against. They say you're going to just have to trust us, right? I mean, they say, well, we have the knife sheath. There's his DNA on it. Then there's an entire narrative around it. I just think that these operations or these agencies, the law enforcement, they can get a lot more creative than we would ever know. And they're not going to come out and tell us after the fact. Right? One of my favorite things to kind of wake people up to that, and I've shown this recently, but I'm going to play it again because it's important and it's well said. Type a 1 in the chat if you've heard of Greg Scarpa. He was an informant for the FBI that infiltrated the mob. Okay. And I know people have seen this, but if you haven't, okay, this is crazy. The lengths that law enforcement will go to in order to keep an asset undercover and inside of who they're trying to take down is shocking. And this is one of the only stories out there that shows just how extreme of lengths they'll go to. Okay. So here, let me find it. Come on. Come on. So it's got devil's advocates in it. Son of a. Oh, come on. This happens all the time. I know that I'm scrolling by it. Sorry, Hive. What the? Oh. What the heck? Where is this damn thing? Hang on. Don't go anywhere. You guys are going to want to see this if you haven't seen it. I hate when this happens. I always am like, oh, shoot. I'm not saying anything. Come on. I don't understand how it just disappears. Unless there's no way it was only on TikTok. I know it was on YouTube. Sorry. Now at this point, I'm going for it. I'm going for it at this point. Sorry. Now I'm distracted.
Okay, I just fucking thought the Taj Mahal was in Russia for 18 years of my life. And I just watched myself get embarrassed like an idiot. And you know what I did? I
That was good times. I thought the Taj Mahal was in Russia. Okay. Focus, Birdie. Focus. Somebody put me on a timer of a minute. Oh, finally.
Why in hell is anything related to Brian Cobberger's case a matter of national security? Our government had an FBI, an asset from the FBI who was working for the mob as a hitman, and they allowed him to continue to do murders and even helped frame a guy who didn't commit a murder so that the guy that they had on the inside of the mob could stay inside and they can keep building their case against the mob. Put this towards the Cobberger case. If there's any truth to the rumors that this had to do with drugs, then some confidential informant may be working with law enforcement agencies to bring down some kind of big, industry. And if they do, they have shown in the past, they will lie, help fabricate information to keep their confidential informant from being exposed, because that's going to be important. So now the question is, when you start getting into issues of national security and you get into all this unprecedented gag order, it suggests that there is somebody involved with this crime, either an assailant or one of the survivors who's an inside government informant, who has been a confidential informant and is being protected. They're willing to let somebody else go down for it in order to keep the bigger target on their radar and not blow the lid on something bigger. Why in hell is anything?
That's a good point, but like I said, there's documentation about
God damn it, we live.
Okay, hang on. Where's that button? Yeah, I mean, dude, they framed people for murder to keep somebody undercover inside the mob. It's insane. The government has done a lot of crazy stuff, as we know. They've done things on a massive scale. And so if they could pull it off on a world level scale, on an international scale, why can't they do it in a small local town? Right? So yeah, it's all confusing and it's all wild. And as I started this stream saying, it just certainly seems like you can see the system continuing to break, and it doesn't stop. It's like, how much more can the mainstream media be broken down? How does the mainstream media exist unless it's an arm of the government for pushing propaganda, which I don't think anybody questions that anymore at this point. It's so obvious. That interview that we just watched with the lady from CNN, I don't know her name. It's obvious. She's just trying to get a soundbite. It's so obvious, and it's all to influence the way that you think and prevent you from thinking critically. And I don't even care if that sounds like I'm some nut job, tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist, tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist. I don't care. I don't care. I've never cared. I won't care. And at the end of the day, why are we looking into this case so hard? This case is the biggest red pill for people that want to learn how a narrative is forced onto the masses. And then once it gets out there, the first level of defense for the narrative, it doesn't even have to be the news. It's these normies. They come at you like a mob with pickaxes damn near in your comments, or they get a bot army to attack you, or they just, they spam your comments, or they spam report or mass report. And it's just people that they can't stand it. They just see that the mouth, they're foaming from the mouth. How dare you think? No, stop thinking. He's a serial killer. Don't you know that? He wore gloves in Idaho and Washington in November. Today, and if Brian's not a Fed, today it's him. It could be anybody. And there are people that their case who are wrongfully convicted has not gotten anywhere near the amount of attention that this one has. And to sit here and be told that we're crazy, or that this has nothing to do with the families. This has nothing to do with anything but the truth. Whether it's the truth of who actually killed them, or the truth on why they're pushing such a fake narrative, that's what's important. The way that I now have formed an opinion around for the greater good, right? National security, not telling the public what you're doing for quote unquote the greater good. I used to have the opinion of, well, there's obviously a diminishing return for it, right? I now don't even believe that they should be able to do that. All of these undercover operations, how many innocent people have they gotten killed, right? And you could say, well, they need to go undercover because they need to catch the bad guys that are killing more people. Okay, I understand that. Calculated risks. Okay, greater good. But at a certain point, how far are they going? How far are they going to get this done? And every time that something happens that goes bad, they'll then take advantage of it in a continuous circuit, in a continuous loop, right? So 9/11, you have the Patriot Act. Then what ends up coming out? Oh, the NSA is spying on everybody. We're only going to use this super top secret crazy technology just to catch the monsters. We wouldn't use it on our own citizens, and they're just in the back like, these idiots, they believed us again. These peasants, these useless eaters. And it's like, we're so awake to it, and it doesn't seem to be stopping. And I'm sure I'm not the only person that feels like this, but the amount of people, like, what's the mathematical term for this? Somebody help me out. Like the slope, the incline of a graph. I'm sure there might be an obvious word for it, but I'm blanking on it right now. More people need to wake up faster, is my point. More people need to wake up faster, and it needs to happen like yesterday. It doesn't even have to be about this case. Isn't it always interesting when you're having a conversation with somebody and it's like their brain doesn't let their mouth say the words that you exponential. Thank you. The incline. Their brain doesn't let them say the words that they're thinking, either out of fear of getting in trouble, the fear of being judged. It could be about any situation that is clearly fake or phony or a false flag or to push a narrative. And it's like they know, but they just can't. They can't get themselves to agree with you. The trajectory. Thank you, UK Jules. That's a good old American education system. Learned about King Henry VIII for 9 years of my life. Or whatever else we were learning about that's not even relevant anymore. And I know people don't just want to hear me rant about everything that's completely wrong with the system. I'm sure it's a worldwide thing. Radical acceptance and competitive victimhood. Have you guys ever heard that? We live in a society where it's like competitive victimhood, and this has nothing to do with the Idaho 4 case by any means. It could be about any situation. No, I'm more of a victim. It's like, guys, can we just chill the F out? I feel like there's a rather simple solution to many problems that have existed for a very long time in this world. A lot of at least in America, a lot of the divisive right and left problems, in my opinion, have rather simple fixes. What makes it difficult is the media. And as I'm kind of going to make a full circle on this, with this fear for people to actually want to have dialect in a conversation with somebody that maybe they in the past haven't agreed with. Got to get past the initial disagreement to make any sort of progress. And if we can't do that, which we can't. We've proven it to ourselves. Is anybody happy where we're at? Does anybody like where we're going in general? To everybody that's outside of the U.S. and the Hive, anybody like the way that the world is going right now? It just seems like what's that? It's such a lame reference. Like, what's that Katy Perry song where it's like, I feel like a plastic bag drifting through the air? And I thought of when I thought of that Kim Jong-un movie that I always forget the name of, where they're like, if drinking margaritas and listening to Katy Perry's gay, I don't want to be straight. What is that movie? That's a hilarious movie. The Interview. Thank you, Brandon. Brandon, I'm pretty sure you answer that question every time that I bring that up. The oh. Detective Mowry says, I love the world. My inner sheath is quivering with excitement. I bet it is, Detective Mowry. James D910 says, keep going, Bertie. I'm glad I found the hive. That's funny. Yeah, you've only asked 6 times, Bertie. At this point, Brandon, you're always ready to go. You have it pre-typed so you can just paste it into the comments whenever I ask. And Shady Lady said the U.S. Marshals is still what really perplexes me. What is one of the main things that the U.S. Marshals are involved in when it comes to a crime? Does anybody know? It's a rhetorical question, but let's flood the chat with it. Meanie says logical conclusion, is that they don't want to fix the world. Keeping it broken and breaking it more has benefits. Not to us, though. Amen to that. The Cowboys. Martin Y143 said, Birdie, I figured it out. Brittany Solenston is Dylan's 3 a.m. contact. Look her up. Let me look her up off stream. I'm also not trying to be a simp about that. If you guys have tuned in for a while, I'm very cautious. I don't want to dox people. Okay. So I'll look into it though. Email me too, by the way. Who just said that? Martin Y. Email birdieshivemind@gmail.com, please. That's interesting. Yes, Luna got it. Witsack. I do agree that we are getting there. So what's also interesting, sorry, my foot was stuck on the bottom of my chair. You guys know how we talked about witness protection in general. What do you think is the hardest thing for people to get their heads around when it comes to WITSEC? Or anytime that you start talking about whether it's an operation or something deeper, do you know what question? I'm not trying to say that it pisses me off. It doesn't piss me off. It's rather, it's frustrating because I don't know how to answer it and nobody can answer it. The question, whenever you bring up things like WITSEC or an informant, or you bring up an operation or a sting, right? People always go, but why? But why? We're probably never going to know what it's tied to, who it's tied to. And if we figured it out, well, then that program, I'm talking about witness protection in general, is not effective. Do you know what I mean? And there's an interesting video about how witness protection works. And how they manage to keep a 100% success rate. So it's a short video. One's in the chat if you'd be interested in watching this. I'm probably going to end up playing it either way because, again, I think it's just interesting and it's good to know. So witness protection has a 100% success rate.
The Witness Protection Program, the stuff of TV, movies, and TV movies. It has one purpose, and it is protect snitches from stitches. Instead, give them switches, which is having a witness ditch his business, burn his bridges, and, okay, forget this. It protects informants from retaliation by giving them new identities, and we're covering it in 6 minutes. Since its founding in 1971, the Witness Security Program, or WITSEC, has protected over 19,000 people, informants and their families, and their testimony has led to convictions 89% of the time. Even more impressive, not one rule-abiding witness has been harmed or killed while under protection. So how do they do it? It varies by case, but here's a standard-ish one. Our witness is a bright young drug mule for the mob in, let's say, Miami. Maybe his name is Sean Frank Hayes. As a boy, he was fascinated by the logistics of the illegal drug trade, but now he's feeling guilty about kneecapping all those goons. Police are closing in, so he rats on the boss to get some leniency. But the mob is pretty powerful and doesn't take well to rats.
But the rats don't run this city. We do.
Law enforcement wants to protect Sean. So the AUSA for the Southern District of Florida sends an application to the DOJ OEO detailing how critical his testimony is to their case, how much danger he's in, and the THP-THNC. Then the marshals interview him to ensure he knows what to expect when you're witsicking and send their own recommendation along. As a natural-born citizen, Sean's playing on easy mode. If he were foreign-born or undocumented, ICE might sooner deport him than protect him, so his sponsoring agency would have to fight that, get him off any watch lists, and ensure he has real documents before getting him new ones. Also, if he were incarcerated, he'd have to submit to a polygraph. The Attorney General approved Sean's application, so now he's off by plane and armored vehicle to the so-called Ellis Island for Witnesses, WITSEC's Safe Site and Orientation Center, a place so secret that even though it can house up to 6 families at a time, they never see each other, and WITSEC inspectors don't know who's there besides people they're personally protecting. Even its location is secret. We know it's near DC, but that's it. We put that pin on the Tyson's Corner Mall, and the only secret there is Victoria's. At the center, he gets medical, dental, and psychological exams and signs a memorandum of understanding agreeing, among other things, to testify, not do crimes, and not tell anyone about his new identity, which should be super easy since it's not like he has a history of snitching or anything. For such a massive life change, this can be a pretty short document. This is one of them, and this is what you sign to use Roblox. Now it's time to prep Sean's new life. The marshals ask where he wants to go, and, hating cold weather and loving the zoo, he says San Diego. Figuring everyone he knows these preferences, they send him to the cold, zooless town of, let's say, Aspen, Colorado. He does get to choose his new name, though. Since you're more likely to respond to and correctly write something familiar, witnesses are encouraged to keep their first name and initials. But ultimately, it's up to them. Sean chooses this. He gets a brand new social security card, driver's license, and birth certificate, plus documents and new school records for his 2 weird sons he's bringing with. Sean also has to prove he has sole custody over said weird sons, sell his house and or business, and pay off all legal debts in his name before it stops being his name. Now it's back in the armored car and back to the airport. When he lands in Aspen, WITSEC takes Sean to a temporary apartment while they bring his furniture and belongings from Miami, a process that can involve 3 separate moving companies to throw hitmen off the scent. WITSEC tells Aspen's law enforcement that there's a new criminal in town, but he's hopefully cool now. They help him find a new job. WITSEC once bought a mob guy a fish store and got a drug kingpin a spot at Walmart, along with presumably staffing much of the hardened fighting force of Waffle House. Sean gets at least 90 days of subsistence payments while he gets on his feet, on average about $1,150 a week, depending on local living costs, but he'll get cut off if he's not actively looking for a job. He lands a UPS gig, shout out to his delivery experience, and a condo for him and his weird sons. He can't contact anyone from his past life, unless through a secured phone line or mail system, both of which route through WITSEC, and he can't go anywhere near Miami. Anyone who needs to reach Sean Frank Hayes has to arrange for the marshals at least 10 business days in advance, and if he needs to go back to Miami for the trial, he goes under 24-hour protection and will get to the courthouse in some hitman-resistant way, like the back of a mail truck. But back in Aspen, things are pretty normal. He has to check in with the marshals at least once a year, plus whenever he changes address. He can change jobs, move, or leave the program if he wants to. He can even start a modestly successful YouTube channel as long as he doesn't show his face and stays pretty vague about his past. Despite WITSEC's perfect success rate with rule followers like Sean, it's not all smooth sailing. Witnesses often break the rules and go home, where they get super murdered. And some, not most, but some, return to their crimey ways in their new life, which is why there's a victims' compensation fund for people who are hurt or killed by rogue witnesses. For a while, Orange County, California was a protected witness hotspot because one U.S. Marshal lived there and liked having his protectees within an hour's drive. The problem was, the witnesses realized each other were there, then started dealing drugs together. During a particularly rough patch for the program, its own creator once said, quote, "It is amazing no government witness has been killed," which is great until you see the full quote. But all in all, WITSEC is a brilliant, complicated, hugely successful program that has helped bring some major bad guys like this to justice and some minor bad guys like me to Aspen. Oh, shoot, I didn't mean to. Oh, sorry guys, I gotta go. But before I do, I want to talk to you about one more thing, your career. Picking a career path is one of the biggest choices you'll make in life, on par with where to live, what to study, or whether to rat on the mom. Your career is going to take up, on average, 80,000 hours of your life. That's an absolutely enormous portion. Of course, you've got to make a living somehow, but it's possible both to make a living and to feel like you're doing something fulfilling with an impact, and that's what our video sponsor, 80,000 Hours, helps with. After 10 years of research alongside academics at Oxford University, their team created this totally free nonprofit resource designed to help you make your 80,000.
Okay, that's now just an ad, but yeah, it's pretty interesting, right? It's so poorly ran that it's amazing that they have a 100%. They have a 100% success rate. One of the things that I also find interesting is, you know, with the recent legislation that Little had signed that Olivia's been talking about, there's two things. And you know what? I'm actually going to pull that up. Let's listen to that. Come on.
Governor called you personally, right? What did he say?
He just said, you know, he was really happy to be able to start enacting this change. And, you know, it was long overdue, not personally for this case, but just for victims' rights in general in Idaho and, you know, other states.
I think it has ramifications for other states, particularly, I mean, unfortunately to say this because of the high profile nature of this. I think this is a wake-up call. Steve, just to be clear, what exactly does this law limit from the public record? How does it work?
As I understand it, this is mainly Olivia's bill that she's been working on, and I've been on the sidelines for this one. But it protects crime scene, the gory.
Oh, News Nation had some mic problems. That's not me.
The body, you know, it protects that. It basically says it's still going to be used in a court of law and all that. It's just not something that gets released to the general public. Freedom of Information Act. There's certain things that are just not evidence, and that's kind of what we're taking. I mean, we didn't even have a court case. It was a plea, so we see that this is something that is like common courtesy for a family that went through something like this. That we don't drag us through this.
And Olivia, to be clear, if a family wants to request the photos for whatever reason, they could still, but is there some limitations to that?
So it goes with the familial hierarchy. So it's surviving spouse, adult children, parents, siblings, grandparents, and it has to go in that order. They can't jump the line, but there's no limitations on, you know, getting access to those records.
Olivia, were you getting pushback? Was anybody saying, I don't agree with this, I think this is a problem? Because I imagine the argument would be, critics would say, hey, listen, the public, news, we have a right to public access to all details about this case, no matter what it is. Were you receiving that kind of pushback? And what would you say to critics who say that?
Yeah, so I actually have to give credit to Senator Wintrow. She worked amazingly hand in hand with the press actually to make this a very smooth transition and to make it so that this isn't about a lack of transparency. This is about protecting dignity. And for those who would have a problem with this very uncontroversial bill, I would say that maybe you should just reconsider why you feel entitled to view photos taken during a death investigation of a dead body.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point. You weigh what would be the value of that, right? The public's access to knowledge about our criminal justice system or a case versus what exactly you're asking for. Steve, I want to bring it back to your experience, your family's experience, for people who don't know. Why was this so important to you? What happened? What did you go through that you thought it was important for you and Olivia to go through with this and push for this. What happened with your family with respect to this case?
Well, there was times where we weren't sure who was defending us and who we were going after, and
I can't listen to that echo, but here's one of the things that's interesting about all that, though. I don't think it's that I don't disagree. It is uncontroversial. I don't know many people that just want to see dead bodies. My question, though, is then what happens for like docuseries or any kind of story? Does that have to strictly obviously go through the families then for them to say, yes, you can use this certain photo? But I don't know. Like they typically will redact the faces of it. And I don't know. This was pushed really, really hard. And like, I can see the dignity piece of it. It just seems odd that it's a case with so much controversy. Does that make sense? And that's really what it is for me, is that it's a super controversial. When I say controversial, it's a sus case, right? Everything's been redacted already. Now they're going after the photos, and they're doing it by almost putting it on the backs of the people who have looked into it and questioned it and blaming them. They're the reason that we've had to go this far. Okay, well, none of us had access to the photos, even the ones that are FOIA'd, outside of the one that people claim is Xana's arm. And like, you can't even tell that it's really her, in my opinion. Outside of that, that's a mess up on the law enforcement then. Now, it is convenient too if they are hiding something. Not necessarily just this case, but anybody, right? That's what Meany just said, is that the bill is a sure, convenient way for people trying to hide stuff. Yeah, it's not our fault. I agree, Sleuth or Dare. It's not our fault it wasn't redacted correctly. And that's such a good point, Kerry Johnson. They zipped up body bags on gurneys, or the zipped up body bags on the gurneys were redacted. You can go turn on your local news tonight at 10. If you're going to watch your local news tonight at 10 and you see a crime scene, they will show a gurney with a body bag being rolled out on the public news. Do you know what I'm saying? That's crazy to me. So, anyways, Hive, thank you all so much for tuning in. It's been a while since we've almost done 3 hours. This was fun. It was great to kind of have more of a relaxed stream, hang out, kind of bounce all over the place. Hit the like, hit subscribe. Thank you so much for 25,000 subscribers. The Hive is continuing to grow far and wide. I will keep you updated about tomorrow. Just turn your notifications on, because I might do a surprise live with Mrs. Birdie. We've been talking about it. She's been wanting to pop onto the stream, and tomorrow might be a good day for us schedule-wise. If not, I will be back on Monday night, 7 p.m. Central, and put it on your calendars. Wednesday, crime scene forensic expert Jeffrey Gentry will be back on the stream. You do not want to miss that one. Oh, and also, I will say this. I'm going to be on Dago's stream tomorrow, too, at 5 Central. So I'm going to be streaming on Dago's stream, but I'm not going to be doing it on the Hive. Okay. It might be, I don't think it's going to be co-hosted, but tomorrow at 5 p.m. I will be on with Dago, or True Crime Cafe with Dago. And then Mrs. Birdie and I might pop on after if we're able to. So thank you all so much for tuning in. I will see you then. Cheers, everybody.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. It's a new